Welcome to Lakers Fast Break Weekend Edition, weekend update, like the Saturday Night Live, hopefully with a little less wacky jokes. My name is Jamie Sweet for Gerald Glassford. I'd like to thank all of our contributors who are on and off the show. My guest here today, LakerTom. I know he's currently MIA, but Magic Man Sean Grice, OG Laker blogger, who we have a lot of respect and admiration for. Nick Molina, Stone Hansen, John, Gerald, Joe, aka Ox 1947. I'm sure the list goes on, and I'm leaving a person or two off. L Rob, of course, has been on the show a few times, also an OG Laker blogger who we have a lot of respect and admiration for. So welcome to our show here on the weekend. As the NBA playoffs begin to roll to a close, and Miami made a dent. They won their one game. It was not in Miami. It was in Denver, which I was a little bit surprised at, and I thought that may herald an actual series until they showed up in Miami, and the Nuggets have figured out whatever Miami did in Game 2 has now been neutralized to the point that it's back to a series where I feel like there's a big, tall person with their arm stretched out like this, and there's a little person on the other end of that arm flailing about a foot away from their body trying to land a punch, and it's just not going to happen. Could Denver like Miami with their, because now they've both been in Miami for about a week, 5 days, 6 days.
Could that catch up with them?
Huh?
Could that catch up with them?
Well, I mean, there was an ESPN article about the atmosphere in Denver, the mile-high atmosphere, and even the players were saying, whenever we come home from a road trip, we have to reacclimate. So really, Miami's only hope is that they can push through and reacclimate better at this point. If they can take Game 5 in Denver, that really actually kind of does make it a series because now it's
back home for Game 6, and it's
right. We know where Game 6 is, and I have a hard time seeing Miami losing 3 in a row on their home floor. But
it is sweet how the dynamics work to really reinvigorate the series.
I mean,
as you go back and forth.
I agree, and I feel like
the 2-1, the 2-2-1-1-1 arrangement of the games is by far a great attribute to making great series.
I agree. I did not love the 2-1-1-1, the 2-3-2 format. I didn't.
Yeah, I hated that too.
I thought it really actually kind of gave an advantage to the away team.
Yep.
Because all you had to do is win one, and then you've got that chunk you can count on.
Put the other guy in elimination games 2 in a row.
Right. You even if you lose a game at home, like you're like, all right, we can still go up 3-1, 3-2. At home and just win 1 or 2 on the road again. And at this point, you're a lot of people like to be like, oh, home court advantage and this and that. These are professional athletes. They like, if anything,
you always have human nature that you take your foot off of the gas when you're ahead and you put your foot on the gas when you're behind. I mean, it happens. It's life.
What's up, Jupal Gasol? How you doing? Hope everybody's doing well out there on the chat. I'm going to try to be a little bit better about showing people on the chat today. I was terrible about it last time when I was the host. Now I know what I'm doing a little better. My learning curve, I believe, I've destroyed. So hopefully we're super pro about all this. And one more thing on professional athletes. I think they maybe even some. I remember Kobe. A lot of athletes have talked about it. They prefer to play on the road because there's nothing better than silencing that crowd, than taking that crowd out of a game. Winning on your home floor is wonderful and all, I'm sure. But I feel like a lot of times you get a little bit, there's a little bit extra motivation. The chip is a little deeper on your shoulder. You dig in a little harder because you just don't.
It's also easier to focus,
Right.
You don't have the wife and the kids and the neighbors and your friends and
you're not worried about you don't have
to worry about that stuff.
Right. Did all my people get into the game? Did my uncle
it's easier to get into that routine of a pre-game thing where you've got some sort of focus and you go through these 3 different things and you eat your favorite foods and you time everything so you're at the arena at the right time and place and you feel good and Everything's right. Your headband's in the right place. Your
Right.
shoes in the right place.
You do have to worry about that hotel food. You do have to worry about that hotel food a
Yeah,
little bit.
that is a danger. That is a danger.
There was the burger game, the infamous burger game that Kobe had, where he claims that he got a bad burger. I think it was in Portland during the playoffs. And
I wouldn't put it past some fans in some towns. I'm not accusing anybody, but there are some fans who would go to those types of moves.
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, if I might be that type of fan. I just happen to work in IT, so I'm not really in a position to do any damage to somebody who's at a hotel near me. But
you're the guy in the front row who sticks his leg out when a Celtic
see that
by.
you get kicked out for. Then you can't watch the rest of the game. They ban you for life, something like that. I hate those guys. I hate people who spill a drink on the court when they're in their $45 million seats. I'm like, come on, man! Like, you can run a multi-million-dollar company, but you can't keep your drink up. Like, let's step up our game here. Let's step up.
Well, I ran into that technology. I got a drink at Taco Bell. I've never gone to Taco Bell, rarely in my life. But I got home and I'm getting ready to throw it in the trash. And there's still a bunch of ice in there, so I don't want to throw that in the trash. We have our different compartments. And I swear this lid was a totally unable to open lid that I finally I took the thing and I smashed it down as the only way I can get the lid off. I said, wow, they need these for these Laker games in the front row, man.
My favorite are the beers that so you'll see the concerts. They put the beer on the bar and it fills up from the bottom.
Right.
It's just kind of like, it works, but I swear I'm watching magic right now. Like, this is real, honest to God, magic technology. So anyway, our aim here on the weekend edition of this podcast, this video blog, this video podcast, whatever people call these things, is to highlight some of our posts and some of our bloggers over at Lakerholics.com, which is a site Tom started, reflective of our time back in the day at the LA Times Laker blog, run by such Laker blogger luminaries as the Kamenetsky brothers, Mark Medina, and among others. But my glory era was definitely, I felt the glory area for it was definitely when Brian and Andrew Kamenetsky ran it. So shout out to the Kamenetsky brothers for really fostering a very. I felt like what they did during that time was really at a time when blogging. I wouldn't say it was new, but it hadn't reached the manic zenith where you made a podcast out of it and this and that and the other thing. You just wrote stuff down and that was enough. They also had a book out on competitive fishing, I believe, that kind of led the Times to be like, hey, would you like to do this too? And they're like, sure. And so I think they really did a great job of having an even-handed, even-keeled approach to moderating a blog where I don't know if I ever heard
anybody. It's difficult to do if you look at the individual personalities of the two of them because they're both right. They're both lightning rods for criticism.
No, and they're both what I love about them is they're both quite different in their. Yeah, I would say that Brian is a little.
They don't have much brotherly agreement most of the time.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, there's that. There's a little bit of there's a little bit of give and take there, a little push and pull. I would say that Brian is a little less of a fanboy than Andy is. Andy loves the Lakers. Brian admires the Lakers, but
Brian's not even a Laker fan.
He loves sport.
He's an admitted not Laker fan.
He's admittedly not a Laker fan, but he loves high level of competition, and he loves people who are excellent at their craft. Hence, a book about competitive sport fishing, which I don't even know. I've never read it. I probably should, but I don't.
There's nothing that hasn't been turned into some form of competitive sport.
But anyway, so the Lakerholics.com website is a reflection and inspired by that moment in time, and as such, we'll bring up my latest post, which I wrote just a couple of days ago. And this is about our offseason as Lakerholics and what I think we might do. We talk, as I said before, when I do a post, I'll have a little bit of an intro as I have things. The off season. This is going to be some of my thoughts on what we ought to do this off season, and then I'll have something to listen to. In this case, it's the wonderful Tenacious D cover of Wicked Game, which if you haven't seen this video, it's a hoot. We won't play it now. Probably there's a copyright there, and Gerald will have a heart attack. So we'll just scroll right on by that. But it's recommended listening. So the first thing I brought up was, should the Lakers continue to build around LeBron James, which is I think a valid question at this point. Is LeBron James the player whom we should continue building around? I'm thinking less and less that he should be, based on both his availability and his ability to play hard for a full 48 minutes and deliver the type of performance one expects to see from LeBron James. Now I don't want to phrase that in a way that makes it seem like it's his fault. The dude is coming up on 40 years old. The dude is coming up on 40 years old.
Well, wait a minute. Let's get some of the verbiage corrected so that we can know exactly what we're talking about.
Sure.
Because building around LeBron has two connotations to me. One is if you're building around LeBron in a win now mode, meaning that that's all you care for. I don't think any of us at this point in time believe we should be doing that, because we just don't know what we have left in LeBron. And it's probably going to be the type of thing that you're going to be in that same situation at the start of every season, hopefully, unless, he has a serious injury. But I do think you have to build around him in the sense that you have to understand that he's limited now. We can't play huge minutes with him. We can't rely upon him to be the primary scorer, the primary ball handler and distributor. So we have to build around him, and that we have to. One of the things that we hadn't had up until the trade deadline was anybody to back up LeBron or AD. Their backups were Wayne Gabriel and Troy Brown,
Lonnie Walker the fourth.
Yeah, so we've done a good job. Well, 6'4" guy, he ain't going to do the same thing as the 6'9" LeBron. So we have to shore up the positions behind them so that when they can't play, that we've got insurance and we can reduce their minutes. I think those are important things. So building around him, I think the Lakers have kind of come to an understanding that, hey, 2 years may be it. Because Bron's not going to want to play if he's not capable of being a superstar.
Of course. No, I think that kind of goes without saying. He'll at best we'll get Kobe's final season, right? At best.
He does. I think he knows enough about his role in history to understand that there has to be a farewell tour.
Oh no, I didn't. I have not taken. I don't really take the "I'm going to retire without a farewell tour" or without leaving the Lakers on the hook for $50 million next season, unable to build a team.
Right.
Because just to clear something up, if LeBron retires, that contract doesn't get
the contract's still there.
The contract still applies. Every penny
of
that contract, all those
cap dollars.
Every penny of that contract hits the Lakers salary cap, just the same way if he was suiting up. He could be playing Mario Kart at home, doesn't matter. He is a Laker on paper. And so that, if he does choose this retirement route, basically sinks the season. Because I just don't see the Lakers buying him out. I don't see him forfeiting the money. I don't see any of that happening. And so as such, that's why I have every belief that LeBron James will be in a Laker uniform come training camp. Now
he's got, you don't create a beautiful, magnificent career and then when you're ready to put the topping on that career that probably has a good chance of especially with our recency bias, of propelling you past Michael and becoming the GOAT, Right. You're not going to give that away. You're not going to give that away in a sense at all. I mean, LeBron has been about crafting a long and illustrious career as the greatest basketball player in the world. And he's a couple of seasons away from probably doing that. If he can win one of those two titles in the next 2 years, I think he's got a good chance.
I mean, the other thing you have to consider is so the Lakers and LeBron are at least in this arrangement for one more season, minimum. After that, he's got a player option, which he could decline. He could decline and sign for less. He could decline and sign with another team. He could decline and retire. So I kind of think he's going to – if he does – I think he's weighing three things right now. One, do I get surgery, which I sincerely hope he does. I'm sure that's one of the reasons he doesn't want to play. I'm sure he doesn't want to go through a 2-3 month rehab, be ready by the beginning of the season, not really have a fun summer to like hang out with his kids, play with his, hang out with his family, do things that the Jameses like to do in the off season, which are generally some kind of fun vacation somewhere remote. And I understand that, I understand the grind that he goes through over the 82 game season, the grind that only magnifies when the playoffs come around, where you have to give a long-winded interview about simple stuff and make it sound dynamic every time. And that's got to be, after 21 years of that, it's got to be the most boring, or the 21st year of that, looking at that has to be nothing but boring and annoying. I empathize with that. However, you're also getting paid $50 million, and that's your job. You're getting paid $50 million. That's your job. Your job is to do the 82 game grind. Your job is to play a game for 82 games. And if your team is good enough to get into the playoffs, to try and get 16 more wins under your belt, 17 or 18 if you have to do the play-in route again. So everybody has days where they don't like their job. I've had days where I don't like my job. I'm sure you've had days where you don't like your job. The point is, I mean, and everybody goes like, "Oh, I'd do it if I was getting paid $50 million." That's not how the human mind works. The human mind doesn't say like, "Oh, I'm getting paid $50 million. This is fun." The human mind goes, "I don't want to do this for the 21st year. I don't care about the money because I've already got $50 million 8 times over in the bank. I'm good on the 50 mil. I'm not doing it for the 50 mil. I'm doing it for the history. And if I can't make history, I don't think I want to do it anymore." And that is the issue. That is the issue because it's
it all comes down to how much of it was a foot injury and how much of it is just age.
All of it. I think it's all of it. I think it was getting swept by a team that you look at as being that team is going to be together for 4 or 5 years, right? That is
and they weren't that much better. I mean, it's just every game was a winnable game.
Sure, but the fact that none of the games got won and it was never really.
But that's one of those things that every so often happens, and part of it was that we were burned out. They were incredibly lucky in their shots going in, and D'Lo just totally cratered on us. And you look at the injuries, the way that LeBron and AD did not have great playoffs.
No.
AD did defensively. I'll take that back. I'll say AD did defensively. He did his job defensively.
Sure.
But offensively, he was inconsistent, and LeBron was inconsistent.
Wildly so.
And, we had some guys like Hachimura and Reeves who played great. And but when I look at the lineup that Denver puts out there, the guy who's the big difference maker for me has always been Aaron Gordon, man. He's the killer. He just takes advantage of us from a size standpoint. That's why I feel so strongly about needing to get bigger. Well, anyway, let's move on to there's 5 points in every one of Jamie's articles, and he basically picks up the 5 things that he thinks are most important about the previous game or the off season or whatever the topic is. So
let's do it. So point number 1 is a long-winded one about, do we continue to build around LeBron and AD? The basic answer comes back to yes. I bring up a couple of points that I think are valid. One, I think that AD is bulked up to a point that is maybe not conducive to him being as effective and dynamic an offensive player as he used to be. He doesn't have a good first step anymore.
Over the long term, I think it's
right. Now I'm not talking like a Zion-like issue where the guy jumps and like his bone just can't, his body simply can't take the weight and the torque at which he plays. Zion, I'm doubting he'll ever have a long career. I'm doubting his career in the NBA at this point. Stephen A. Smith had a really nice. He has a nice video that I watched the other day, where I had a hard time disagreeing with him. I'm a big fan of the idea of Zion. Dude doesn't play, right? He just doesn't play, and at this point, the excuses stop to matter. If you don't play, you're a bust.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what everybody thinks you could do or what you think you could do, because you're not doing it. And that's kind of where I've gotten to with AD. It's like, well, I saw the first season he was here, I saw this player that I was like, I see the future of the Lakers. This is the guy who we're going to build around. And then after that season, I have never seen that player again, to the point where I kind of think that version of the player is the outlier. That the AD we've gotten the last couple of years is that's what I've seen more of. So, and then people say the same thing. Well, he was hurt then, and he got hurt then, and he got hurt then, and he did this, and he played through that. That's great. But it doesn't change reality. I can't.
No, but I think it does change the sort of Mr. Street Clothes nomen that had been dumped on him.
He missed another 30 games this season. He
played 4 games, and a whole lot of guys did who supposedly never got the hype, the negative hype that he did. I think the difference is that before we were sure he was a top 5 player knocking on the door of being the best player.
Sure.
And he hasn't looked like that in the last 3 years.
He hasn't looked anything like that.
And but those are always just snapshots.
3 seasons of below 30%, below 35% 3-point field goal.
But it doesn't change. It doesn't change the simple thing that first off, there are very few. There's almost nobody else who can do what he can do defensively and the impact he can have defensively.
Right, but we didn't. But we didn't trade for an elite. We didn't trade for an elite defender. We did not trade the farm.
No, but we've got him right now, and he's a player you got, and you're never going to get value from him trading him.
Well, that's the other point I make in this, is that there's the return on the AD trade now.
You just have to build around him, which means that you have to understand who you're building around. You're not building around a guy who's going to be there 82 games. You're not building around a guy who can play 40 minutes a game. You're not building around a guy who can put up against the biggest centers in the league. So you have to then build around him to make sure that your team complements him and takes care of the weaknesses and helps his strengths. And, that's all a part of the building.
And we talked a little bit about this last week, and we'll bring it up again, I'm sure, in the future. Do you think then it makes more sense to build the team around a version of AD that plays, if not only at the 4, at least more at the 4? And I'm not talking about playoffs.
I do for a million reasons.
In the playoffs, it's gonna be matchup based, right? If he's the best center available, he'll play center.
Yeah.
If there's a better matchup and we have a back to the basket or even just like a journeyman type center, guys we brought up last week, like an Andre Drummond, Xavier Tillman, even Steven Adams. Guys,
we won a championship with Dwight Howard starting at center
against the Nuggets specifically.
Against the
Nuggets specifically. So you need to. I think there are a million reasons why you at least have to re-explore that during the regular season. And longtime blogger Mongo Slade, I know, will not be happy about that point because he wants to see AD in the post. He wants to see him be the best center that he can be. My problem is that you've lost with all of that exertion. I think that is what's sapping his dynamic ability as a scorer. And one of the things that made the Lakers work so well, we had the best record in the league that year. Some of that was a younger LeBron. Some of that was a better supporting cast that just fit better around those two. Other guys who could shoot, other guys who could make plays. And we had a bigger team in general across the board, bigger. Still, we had the best record in the league, mainly because of AD's excellence in the regular season.
Right.
And he was in the MVP conversation up until COVID. And then, the last 30 games, it just, you didn't get the chance to really decide. You had to decide on the first 60 games. Can't remember who won it that year. I want to say it was Giannis.
The thing we had that year was we had McGee played terrific the first half of the year.
Yep.
And he started and he played terrific. And then he just like fell off of the cliff.
He got a hip injury midway through the year.
He was horrible. But at that point in time, we put Howard in there, and Howard did well.
Yep.
And then we got to the playoffs, and until we got to Joker, well, AD played 5. Yep. And that was just terrific because that was small ball on steroids, and Markieff did a great job, and Rondo
Morris came alive.
Rondo was hopefully what we're going to see from CP3 if he joins the Lakers instead. It was so I'm 100% in agreement with you for the same reasons that you are, and I always believe in positional size.
Yep.
I want us to have a positional size advantage at every position. And if you move LeBron and AD down a slot, then they are monsters against the guys they play against. Yep. And you stick a Brook Lopez or a Miles Turner or a Naz Reid, even. I'm not as high on Reid just because he's not a defender. I want a shot blocker in there.
Yeah.
But
I either want somebody who's.
But if you tell me he's going to the Clippers, then I want him real bad.
Okay. I knew somebody in the chat would bring this up, so let's get to it now.
Okay.
There it is. CP3.
You got to take him.
Okay, so let's clear up a couple of things here about Chris Paul and his impending, we think his impending divorce from the Phoenix Suns. One, it's not necessarily going to happen. He could, because his contract is only half guaranteed, they can buy out the remaining $15 million and re-sign him. He's not getting waived. He's getting bought out, and that's different.
Well, but the behind-the-scenes reports are that they have his people expect him to be waived and stretched.
If that's the case, then that's one thing. Phoenix is under no obligation to do that. They could just pay him $15 million and attempt to resign him for a more a friendlier deal that allow them to keep Booker and Durant together longer.
Yeah, I can understand. They don't want him as a starting point guard any longer.
Sure. I mean, I think that's the other thing is that they might want him to come off the bench.
Yeah, and it's the money. The money is the issue.
I think it's more the role. I think that they saw how well Booker did with the ball in his hands in the playoffs, and they said that it's time for this to happen.
Well, you got a guy who needs the ball in his hands to be effective, and you got 2 superstars now who need the ball in their hands.
Honestly, you got 3 guys.
They want to get a third superstar who needs the ball in their hands too. Kyrie Irving.
I don't understand that part. I don't even know if they want to get Kyrie Irving. I don't believe that's scuttlebutt. I think that the only team that wants Kyrie Irving is Dallas, and that's only because they paid so much to get him.
Yeah.
So Intel Wilds is kind of agreeing with you. Got to take him.
Well, here's the thing. He can't. Here's the 2 options. If he's just waived, then he's getting paid by the Suns $15 million, and he can't double dip. That means that all he can do is get the minimum or a salary bigger than what he's getting paid.
Also not true.
Now, there's one wrinkle. The one wrinkle is he could buy him out. He could say, "Give me $13 million, and we're done." And I'll do that to save a couple million. Then he's a free agent. He could sign for anything because he's already got paid by. Yeah.
Okay, so that's true to a point. Once if he's waived, by that I mean, bought out, not bought out. If he's waived and stretched, or just outright waived, however that works for Phoenix, then he has to clear waivers, which means a few teams can put in for him.
Yeah, but that means that they're going to agree to pay him $15 million. Nobody's going to agree.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that San Antonio might be interested in bumping up their low cap sheet and having a point guard that could help Wembanyama understand the nuances of the game. To bring up one team, just one. Mm-hmm. San Antonio will also do that simply to keep him from coming to the Lakers. I could see that happening on both counts, either count. Hey, what's up, Raul? Yeah, Kyrie Irving does have tantrums. I don't know that CP3 is good for the Lakers. I should clarify something. I am not a Chris Paul fan in any way, shape, or form.
No, neither am I. I hate the guy.
I have never been. I was happy when the league nixed. The only thing that bummed me out when the league nixed the trade for Pau Gasol and Lamar Odom is that I knew it was going to burn a bridge between at least one of those 2 guys. Pau was professional enough to play out the rest of that season, and then
killed Lamar's career.
But it ended Lamar Odom's career. And that's what pissed me off about that, was that I thought the NBA did wrong by two of its best players. And so that to me always rubbed wrong. I also don't think you trade size for small. We had two players of size who had dynamic skill sets, who did exactly what Chris Paul did, but could also rebound the ball. And I never understood the idea behind that trade. You don't bring somebody who needs the ball as much as Chris Paul does onto a team with Kobe Bryant. It didn't work with Steve Nash. It didn't work with any of the number of players. Mitch Richmond, J.R. Smith, J.R. Ryder. All these guys who were like scoring forwards who could break a defense down from the top of the key were relegated to spot-up shooters on the Lakers because Kobe had the ball. You don't pair guys who need the ball with their hands with another guy who needs the ball in their hands. It's insanity, unless that guy's coming off the bench backing up the other guy. So,
but here's what's really interesting about this whole discussion on Chris Paul, because when you think about him fitting on the Lakers and what would he allow to happen? First, he'd allow LeBron to play off of the ball, and LeBron would be impossible to cover with Paul feeding him. And then you got AD on pick and rolls with Chris. It's just it's really a perfect match, especially. But the whole thing is going to be dependent upon Chris being able to agree that he's going to come off the bench. He's not a starting point guard anymore. He can't play starting point guard minutes, man.
Well, that's the other thing. I don't think he's going to do that. I don't think he's going to agree with that.
I think if there's a reason why he doesn't come to the Lakers, it should be because the Lakers said that's what your role would be on this team.
I would hope so.
Come off the bench, mentor Russell. He needs it for sure. You know, he could really use a Hall of Fame mentor to get him back on track.
Well,
that's really let Russell eat up the minutes during the regular season, and then let CP3 be Rondo in the playoffs.
I mean, if that's the only scenario that I can see, but I can guarantee you that Chris Paul is not ready to sign a vet minimums contract with anybody. That's the other thing people should just put out of their brains right now. He's not coming here for the vet minimum. He will not.
He can't sign for that. He can't sign for anything but that unless he buys out his contract.
Which is why I think he will.
Okay.
He's got money.
He doesn't need find out.
He doesn't need LeBron. He doesn't need that $15 million. His State Farm sponsorship alone probably covers that. So let's not delude ourselves, is all I'm saying. He's not coming here for the vet minimum. Anybody who's going, the vet minimum, you're crazy.
He's coming here for the vet minimum. I believe that.
I don't believe that. And I'll tell you this, that it will take more than $5 million to sign him as well. I believe that he will sign a deal in the $10 to $15 million range because that is what he believes his impact is to a team. And whether anybody else believes that or not is inconsequential, because there are enough teams with cap space that could use Memphis. Memphis could bring in Chris Paul for $15 million, let Dylan Brooks walk. Whatever happens to John Morant, great. If John Morant goes down, same idea, right? Except you clearly have a better player than Chris Paul.
How much money do you want to put on this?
Now, $5. I'll bet $5 on all my crazy theories.
$5. You're on for $5. So the bet is that Chris
Paul
will not sign for a minimum contract.
The bet is he will not sign with the Lakers for the veteran minimum, or anywhere. He won't sign anywhere with any team.
Okay, you're on for $5.
Huh?
You're on for $5.
Easiest $5 I ever made. All right. I'm not sure.
What's next on your list? What else can we make money off of you for? Go down the list, man.
If you'd like to sponsor Lakerholics.com, feel free to contact Tom on LakerTom on Tom Wong on Twitter. LakerTom, he would be happy to talk sponsorships. I won't get into the details of any of that stuff. It's just too funny. And same with Lakers Fast Break. I'm quite certain if you would like to sponsor or invest in any way, shape, or form in Lakers Fast Break, feel free to reach out to Gerald Glassford at LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com with your proposal, and you will be fast-tracked to the top of the investment list. Toot sweet. All right. So look, if Chris Paul becomes the Laker, fantastic. I think it's a long shot. The only way I see it working is if it is for a Rondo-esque situation where he kind of like, my wrist, my neck, my gluteus maximus through the regular season, and then is ready to go for the playoffs, where we saw D'Lo completely crater, basically. Outside of 4 or 5 games.
It'd be nice if LeBron could sit down and tell Chris that, man, this is the opportunity we've been waiting for 20 years.
But they both value them. This is the other thing. Everybody likes to play with money as if it has no impact on psyche. These people value their time. They're not going to.
Dollars are worth. It's the number that's important.
The number is
the number of zeros. The number of zeros.
The dollar sign is essentially this a respectometer, right? How much do you respectometer me?
Yeah.
Am I respected here? Am I valued? Yeah. This is what it comes down to. Is it ego? 100% it's ego. And they've earned the right to have that ego, to drop that ego bomb on a team. To be like, oh, you thought I was going to come here for the vet minimum? Isn't that cute? Isn't that wonderfully adorable? It's not happening. Anyway, let's move on to the second wonderful point I had in my 5 things. Basically, I come to my opinion, and point number 1 is we are going to continue to build around LeBron and AD. I think AD needs to move to the 4 and lose weight. Not a lot of weight. I'm talking like 10, 15 pounds, just get leaner faster. And I think that we need to try to construct a dynamic offense that does not revolve around LeBron James having the ball in his hand on every possession.
Agreed.
Which brings us to the point guard question. We talked about this a little bit last week too. I think the Lakers already have 2 or 3 combo guards on the team right now who can run an offense in the half court capably enough. You don't, as the Lakers, you'd rather be on finishing on the break anyway, where you just, the fastest guys down the court score. And LeBron's not going to want to finish on the break, not unless he's like leaking out from the 3-point line, trotting a few steps, to finish a play off. So with that in mind, I think even if we just stay with who we have and maybe even let D'Lo go, I think you could leave. You could use Reeves in the regular season as the de facto point guard. You could combine him with another combo guard, whether it's Russell for 20 to 30 mil, whether it's Clarkson for roughly the same, Jordan Clarkson, whether it's any number of guys. Some guys will be harder to get than others. I would love to get Tyus Jones. I just don't see it happening. Yeah. Fred VanVleet, I think, is going to get paid more than we're willing to pay him. I think Fred VanVleet's going to get paid before D'Lo is, right? Like in terms of the who's going to get, right? Don't you see, like when free agency hits, Fred VanVleet is point guard number 1.
Yeah.
Basically. With D'Lo being even below Chris Paul. Like, oh, well, then let's take a $15, $20 million flyer on Chris Paul, if that's what it takes to bring him here. Mm-hmm. And then D'Lo is going to be left in the 15, 20, 25 million range, which for the Lakers, I think is doable. I think you keep D'Lo at that point if he agrees to come back.
Well, here's what it comes down to, though. I'm going to start from a premise that I believe that the Lakers are going to hard cap themselves, just because there's so many advantages in the hard capping.
I agree.
It's their way of getting access to $16 million worth of exceptions.
Right, through one of 2 ways, which we'll go over here in a second.
Yeah. So once you accept that and you start to look at the situation of Russell, there's 2 things that the Lakers can do. They can put together Beasley and they could guarantee Beasley and Bamba so they could trade them along with the pick to bring back a $20 million player. Or they could sign D'Angelo Russell for $20 million and bring him back. They can't do both of those. If they sign D'Angelo, then they have to renounce both Beasley, or they turned down the team option on Beasley and will not guarantee anything by June 28th on Mamba's contract. So if they do that, then they have a chance. So it makes a lot of sense. Beasley, they just can't do both of them. They just don't have the money to do it.
Exactly.
Because you're going to get up. You go from 169 to 179 so fast that there's hardly room to move.
No.
So I think it makes sense to bring D'Lo back at $20 million.
If that's what happens. And to the Lakers' advantage, there's not a lot of teams, competitive teams, that aren't in rebuilding mode that won't have.
And and most of those teams already got somebody at point guard.
Yeah, I mean, again, D'Lo's a combo guard. You can kind of fit him in at 2 or 3 different slots. I could see a team like Houston wanting to do. I don't know. Houston to me is going to be the wild card this offseason because you kind of expect them to continue rebuilding, but are they?
Well, are they going to continue? There's another wild card too, which is that trade that the Thunder just made.
Yep.
Where they're trading, the Thunder is got so many draft picks that one of the problems is they can't use them. So all of a sudden now they're trying to get rid of draft picks in the next couple of years for ones down the road.
It's good wheeling and dealing.
Michael H. brought up the whole subject of, well, maybe we ought to take our 2029 pick, which is what they just got. I said, I asked the question on Lakerholics. I said, I wonder what they give us. What would the Thunder give us for an unprotected 2029 post LeBron and AD pick? Could we start with the number 12 pick this year and maybe next year's number 1 pick?
I don't know. No, I think it would be a pick for a pick. I don't think you can get 2 picks for 1. I don't think you would get 2.
No, I will give them the 29 pick and they give us the number 12 for this year.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then we have 12 and 15.
I don't know that you get to. I don't know you can talk.
Give me Derek Lively and Bilal Koulibaly.
Now you're just talking crazy. Now you're talking as if OKC is the farm system for the Lakers.
Well,
of course.
Look, if they just gave up a first round pick this year and next year for that 2029 pick,
I'll tell you what that tells me, that they think they're closer to contending, and they are, than a lot of people give them credit for.
Well, it just says that they know that they're going to waste picks because they're going to draft the guys that they can't even put on the roster because they're already filled up.
No, that'll be fine. Anyway, my point guard question is I could go any which way. I could see moving forward as is. I could see us trying to sign and trade for Van Vliet.
I could see that
as long as he opts into his player option, much more than that player option, and it's a problem. He's
gonna get more. He'll get 25 easy.
I know, but if that would mean we won't have access to him, because if we let D'Lo walk, or we'd have to renounce the rights of Beasley, Bamba, and D'Lo. We'd have to let all 3 of those guys walk to have the cap space to sign Reeves, Hachimura, and Van Vliet as a free agent, and that's a problem. That's a problem because then you're looking at, for hard cap purposes, you're right, probably up against the cap at that point. Because let's say it takes $60 million combined to sign all 3 guys. You can maybe argue that down to 50. But between AD and LeBron, that's going to put you at 130 something. And the rest of the contracts, you're already at 140 something, which doesn't give you a lot of room before you start bumping up against that hard cap.
Now, the magic number that works and lets you do almost whatever you want to do is 20 million.
Yeah.
If you want to trade for somebody, you can bring everybody back and trade for somebody for 20 mil. Yep. You just got to decide who you don't bring back to replace that 20 mil.
Exactly.
And if you want to, I mean, there's a million. If you want to go the MLE route and pay $12 million and hopefully get Brook Lopez or Bruce Brown, would you like Bruce Brown to start for you? Small forward.
But I like Bruce Brown on the team.
Because if you do that, you can bring everybody back, including Lonnie. You know.
Yeah.
You got to be careful with them because you can't pay Rui more than 15. You can't pay, you're going to get locked in anyway at 11-3.
You're locked in at 11-3 for Austin Reeves. It's going to cost 11-3.
Yeah. So, but they can bring back almost everybody as long as they just don't bring back 3 small guards. Come on, man. You got to understand that Darvin's got a problem that's sort of like an alcoholic, and you don't put bottles of booze next to him. It's just small guards is like crack cocaine for the guy. He just goes crazy with it.
Give me some small guards.
Put out 3 6-foot guards. Give me Let's do it.
Come on, Rob. I need another small guard.
Yeah.
I also argue for just keeping Bamba and Beasley. I think they'll have more value at the trading deadline.
Well, I think Bamba could be renegotiated and would definitely fill the backup.
Sure. I
would give Bamba $4 million.
Well, he'll be so to that. If we take away his guaranteed contract, that means he's a free agent. He can sign an unrestricted free agent. He can sign with anyone for any amount, wherever he wants to go. So there's no guarantee that he comes back to the Lakers.
No, you would negotiate with him before you release him.
Well,
well, sure. You sit down with him and you say, "Okay, Bamba, what here?" No, it's a very simple thing.
Are you trying to tell me
we'd like to keep him, but we can't pay $10 million? What would he accept for us?
I think he'd say, "Make me a free agent, and I'll take my chances on the open market."
Well, I don't know.
I do.
He's not going to get 10. He's not going to get it close to 10.
I sense another $5 bet, Tom. I sense another $5.
I will bet you that Bamba was not signed for more than $5 million.
I think that his greatest attribute is his expiring contract up to any point up until it becomes fully guaranteed on January 7th.
Yeah, but it doesn't help. It doesn't help a team under the cap because.
Yeah, but
if we guarantee that $10 million, then that means number one that we're going to have a hard time bringing D'Angelo back.
Sure.
So all of a sudden now we've got, in addition to needing a starting point guard and a backup point guard and a backup center, we get into all of these problems. And if, like you and I, we need a starting center too, we're getting as consumed with the center and point guard position as being the key spots that need to be strengthened, both starting and backup.
Yeah, I don't see Bamba having any.
We haven't even talked about the need that we need for a bigger wing or somebody like Vanderbilt who could shoot.
Yeah, well, that we'll skip over 4 because we went deep on 4 last time. We want Rui and Reeves back. We'll probably go up to $15 million to keep Hachimura. Reeves were locked in at
1,200 million. Some dip team will go out there and offer him $100 million just to screw the Lakers.
It's not, but that doesn't count for next season or the following. It's the third season that becomes a problem.
Yeah.
That's a 3 years away problem. I think you do it no matter what. I think you re-up with Reeves no matter what.
Well, that's not today's dollars you're going to pay him in anyway.
Right, and by the time that comes around, that other deal comes around.
That could be a good contract for him.
There'll be different revenue streams. Everything will look different. So I think.
Well, the new TV contract's probably going to give us 10% raises for 2 or 3 years.
And there's also a bunch of stuff coming through the thing. So you brought it up. These are guys that I'd like to see. Who would you like to see?
Who would I like to see? I actually have it broken down by. We have 3 opportunities to improve the team. In other words, we could bring back the existing team, and we have 3 unique opportunities to add somebody. One is the number 17 pick, which could bring somebody who could start and help us right from the beginning. Not a starter, but a rotation player. Then you have the MLE of $12 million. Hi there. Another Laker fan. All right. You got that $12 million, and then you got the $4.4 million BAE. So there's 3 opportunities that you could use to get some good players. So it's interesting to look at it because I've listed 4 guys that I think I'd like to draft. One of them being Derek Lively from Duke, the center. The second one being Kason Wallace, who's like the best perimeter defender and is a point guard. Shoots 35% from 3, and he's the best defender in the league or in the draft.
Sitting like Sam.
And then the other one is Bilal Koulibaly, who's the French guy who's on the team with Wembanyama. He's 6'6", with a 7'3" wingspan wing who shoots close to 40% from 3. and he is the best perimeter defender in the International League. And then the other guy I like, let's see, there was a fourth guy, Jordan Hawkins, 3-point shooter, elite shooter, 6'4", can get his shot off from anywhere and so forth. So one of those four guys could be an impact player from that. Then you go to the MLE. I like Brook Lopez as my first choice, trying to talk him into it. Buy him everything at Disneyland, whatever you have to do. Bruce Brown, I do like a lot. I wish he was bigger, but he would be a terrific addition to it. See, I'm trying to think of who else did I list on that list. Bruce Brown.
Well, I'll tell you a couple while you think about it. I like Xavier Tillman, as I said last week.
Oh, I like Tillman too.
I would trade Beasley for Steven Adams and Tillman and a little bit of money to make that work. I don't know.
Josh Hart was the other one that I had.
I'd take Bamba instead of Beasley and Christie to make that work, but I would do that. I would keep Beasley in that case and hope that you can, with a summer and a training camp, have it work better than it did. I think he had two good games.
There's some argument for Beasley and Bamba both that a training camp could have changed the direction of their career with the Lakers.
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, Bamba, even when his ankle was good, didn't get minutes. Beasley got no minutes in the playoffs after the first series. I don't know. I don't know. It's the defensive side. I mean, and this is the thing with our coach. It's not Mike D'Antoni. It's Darvin Ham, who's a little bit more like Frank Vogel. And if you're not going to defend,
and if you don't play defense really well, it's sort of like Vogel too. If you're a general manager and your coach is Darvin Ham or Frank Vogel, don't give them guys that just shoot, man, because those guys ain't going to make the lineup.
Just defenders.
They'll get exposed and he won't play them.
I'd bring back
unless they're 6 foot guards. Unless they're 6 foot guards, then he probably will.
Well, this is why I don't really see the CP3 thing happening. But he's not. I know he averages like 1.8 steals or whatever, but he's not a good defender. No, he is good.
But one thing I do like is that to post 8 assists and just 2 turnovers for the whole season for an average.
Sure.
That's pretty impressive, man.
I mean, that's guys on the team making shots. Is he going to have the same guys?
That's also getting the ball to those guys without turning it over.
Right.
And that's
a lot of those shots.
Not as easy as it looks.
Right.
Nobody else in the league.
A lot of those assists, I'll bet, went to Devin Booker or like guys.
There's no other guard with an assist to turnover ratio close to that, other than the guy you were talking about from the Grizzlies, the backup point guard there. I'd love to steal him for a starting point guard. Yeah.
We can come up with a big list of guys we want as we get a little bit closer to free agency. I'm looking forward to, I think in the next week or so, maybe as soon as the NBA Finals are done, Larry O'Kuhn will drop his new updated FAQ about the CBA, which I look forward to.
Well, man, I was just reading some of the changes in the trades.
I'd like to get into that next week. I'd like to.
God, I don't even know. I don't know if I've got enough time to study upon it. I mean,
well, let's study the ones that apply the most to the Lakers. Let's not worry about some of the other stuff, but some of the stuff that applies directly to the Lakers and their summer moves. Let's do that.
Well, it's going to be. It is. There are going to be moves made by half a dozen teams this summer just to get out of trouble. Get out to lower their cap and to lower their tax bill.
Technically, they have until the trading deadline.
That 179 million second tax line.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a fun summer. I think we'll wrap it up there. We're coming up on an hour. Last time we went for a really long time. We went for an hour and a half. So, and we've got some stuff to do here as a family. Looks like we've got some science projects going on over there.
Don't blow anything up.
We'll try not to blow anything up. I generally don't let Sid near anything.
Well, the draft is what, the 22nd?
Yep.
So this is the 10th. We're 12
Yeah,
days, so less than 2 weeks away from the draft.
So in 2 weeks, we'll be able to talk draft players. Next week, I think I'd like to talk some of the more arcane aspects of what we've seen come through on the CBA. Specifically what you were talking about, just that one provision about trades, because that is what's really going to define.
Yeah, it's interesting because for those that don't follow the trade stuff, trades are one of the ways that teams can go over the cap or lower their cap, because the trades, you just have to have 75% or 120. You can go up to 125%, or you can take back 75% of what you send out. So if you trade 10 million, you can take back 12.6 million, or you can trade just 7.4 million back. So that's how you can up and down, lower. And a lot of the teams have used that as ways of getting way up over the cap without having to, without being able to make legal trades. And that's going to change a lot. And then, but as we get closer to the draft, I think it's also are we going to be able to do next Saturday, Jamie? I thought you said you were going to be out of town.
Yes, actually, you're right. Next Saturday, I'll be in Phoenix, and so we'll have to skip. So when we come back, we'll actually have the draft will have happened.
Yeah,
playoffs, the finals will have concluded. And
let's check around. Maybe we can figure an alternate time for the next week before the draft. We'll try to fit something in so that we can get that.
I'm quite certain Gerald will schedule a draft special of some sort.
Yeah. Yep, I'm sure they will too. Okay, but anyway, good discussion. Good discussion, man.
Yeah, as always, feel free to send us your suggestions. We appreciate our fantastic Lakers chat room and all the people who like and subscribe to our various endeavors. Thanks, Blue Magic. Nice to see you pop by. Throw that up on the old stream because I learned how to do that today. And we will catch you on the flip side. As always, like and subscribe. Lakers Fast Break. Come on by Lakerholics. Create a profile. Debate with Tom and I about our various positions and stake a position of your own. It's a lot of fun over there. Some great, knowledgeable folks. And we'll see you next time on the Lakers Fast Break.